I'm Jamie Dove, and this is River Creek Farm. We are in Limestone, Tennessee on the Nolichucky River. Well, so we started farming proper, I guess, 5 years ago here. We did about 5 years before that on a much smaller plot just down the river here about 9 years ago. And so we started growing things for our restaurants, and then it just kind of evolved, and so we got into the CSA packages, and then because we buy a lot of stuff from other local farmers and what have you, it's just kind of evolved into this whole system that allows us and some other local farmers to be more efficient. Growing up, you kind of don't know, some of the things that are in the back of your mind or whatever, but I was very lucky to be raised around my great-grandparents that were very, very healthy. My great-grandfather put out a huge garden. Went up and down the roads with him a lot as a kid, didn't know I was, learning things and whatever. And so I just always had that bug, and I guess genetically, he really enjoyed it, and so I guess that's in me somewhere. When I got the opportunity, found myself in the restaurant business, I thought, let's give this thing a whirl. So I went looking for some land and got the small one over there, and just kind of started the experiment. We started in Johnson City, down there in the corner 13 years ago, Main and Roan, the King Center with Main Street Pizza Company. 5 years later, we did one in Kingsport, which is where I was born and raised, so that was a fun homecoming. Just before the pandemic, we opened one out here by the farm. That's a more rural counter service deal, ice cream, pizza. We're about to do one in Bristol. That will be kind of the mirror of our downtown Kingsport and downtown Johnson City operations, but with hopefully some interesting other offerings as well. I think we've got a pretty good spot down there on State Street. So, we'll be working on that this year. Yeah, so startthefarm.com, that's just the word startthefarm.com. You can find us there. You can find us at themainstreetpizzacompany.com. We're all over Facebook, Instagram. Sign up. The vegetables are a very easy thing. It's all online. You have an account. You can skip when you want to skip, set up the schedule whenever you want to schedule it, all that stuff. I would also say, really, at the end of the day, probably the straw that broke the camel's back and made me jump and has made us continue doing this for about a decade now, is just also my kind of thoughts about climate change and that it's not being taken seriously enough and that we ought to be doing more. A lot of this is kind of just about awareness, hey, just put your money where your mouth is. The single most impactful thing one human being could do to help with climate change is to switch as much as possible to a local diet. And we happen to live in a place where that's very, very possible because there's a lot of variety of stuff grown and raised here.